Well, hello once again, Trucker Todd here. Time for another video. This one's going to be a little bit of a rant. It's going to be tied to a FreightWaves story I just read. And so it's going to involve a lot of things. It's going to involve the Ninth Circuit Court. It's going to involve Walmart. It's going to involve the ATA, CRST Expedited, a lot of wonderful advocates for trucking such as that. If you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic there. But before we do, let me remind everybody, make sure you've subscribed. Double check, make sure you didn't accidentally get unsubscribed. Then wait a few seconds, a little bell will click up. Click on that and you can receive notifications when I put out a future video. Also, it'll also help me a lot if you can give this video a thumbs up. If you just absolutely hate it, give it a thumbs down. That's all right too. You can also share this video on your social media platforms. Videos like this where I cover news and things going on in trucking are really important, and I encourage you to especially share these videos. So anyway, let's jump right into today's topic. So I need to give you a little background before I read this story. Recently, Walmart lost a class action lawsuit against their drivers. Man, I've got the twitches today. Regarding off-duty time. Basically, what the court found was that Walmart needed to pay, I think it was $54.9 million to their drivers, because even though the drivers were off-duty, they were being controlled by Walmart. So the court found that the drivers were not actually off duty. They were on duty, and thus they needed to be paid. Good grief. A bunch of stuff come into play here, and we'll get into it in this article. But now it's coming down to other companies are jumping in and basically saying, well, if Walmart has to pay this money, we might actually have to start paying our drivers minimum wage. Now, let me read the article because I could start my rant right now. Let's also keep in mind before I read this article that back in the late 90s is when I first remember truck drivers being referred to as professionals. Now, I would argue that prior to that is more when drivers acted professionally. At one time, truck drivers were referred to as knights of the road, and they had a pretty good reputation. I think over the years, it's not true in every case, but in a lot of cases, the quality of drivers that are actually out on the road now are not as good as maybe what they once were. The only big change I saw when they started calling truck drivers professionals was from a legal standpoint. They placed a lot more responsibility on the driver's shoulders. They made pretty much everything a preventable accident, and it really wasn't a positive thing for the trucking industry. It didn't seem to make drivers take pride in their work or do any of the things that they had hoped it would when they started referring to drivers as professionals. But this is, well, I guess I am going to go into it now before I even read this article. You've got Walmart that's lost a lawsuit, and instead of just going ahead and paying their drivers, they're going to continue to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to not pay their drivers. Then you've got other companies like CRST Expedited and US XPRESS that have absolutely nothing to do with this lawsuit, but they're jumping in it because they're saying, well, if this is allowed to stand, we'll have to pay our drivers minimum wage, and we don't want to pay that much. Think about that. If truck drivers are really professionals, licensed professionals that had to get a license to do this job, is it really an unreasonable expectation for them to at least receive minimum wage? And would you want to work for a company like this that's going to spend thousands of dollars to not pay you? Also, I need to do some definitions here because I realize that people that watch this video are at different levels of experience. The ATA is actually the American Trucking Association. Now, when you hear that, you would think, these guys are advocates for truckers. Really, what they should be called is the Anti-Truckers Association, because for the most part, the ATA works against truck drivers. They are a lobbyist group for these mega carriers, and 9 times out of 10, when they are an advocate for something, it's something that benefits the mega carriers and not necessarily the drivers. And so there's some other groups like this that we'll hear about in this article. The California, where is it? I don't know where my article went. Oh, there it is. Sorry about this. California Trucking Association, also California's version of the ATA. It should be called the California Anti-Truckers Association. But anyway, I've held you up long enough. Let's read this article, and I'd be curious to see what you guys think about it. I'll have my email in the description below. You can also leave comments. But anyway, let's jump right in. This is on FreightWaves. I'll put a link for it down in the description below also. It says the Ninth Circuit denies rehearing of the Walmart sleeper berth case. All right, first of all, the Ninth Circuit Court is not the most pro-business court in the country, but even they sided against Walmart. As a matter of fact, I'd be hard-pressed to think of any time that I've agreed with any decision coming out of the Ninth Circuit. But this time they got it right. So congratulations to the Ninth Circuit for being on the right side for once. It says the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit has denied a petition by Walmart to rehear a lower court's decision that awarded $54.6 million to former California truck drivers for time spent in a sleeper berth during layovers and between trips. Walmart had requested both a panel hearing and a rehearing in banc, typically by a Chief Justice and 10 additional judges, which were both denied. The full court has been advised of the petition for rehearing in banc, and no judge has requested a vote on whether to rehear the matter in banc, according to the Ninth Circuit's decision on Thursday. The petition for the panel rehearing and the petition for the rehearing of en banc were denied. The American Trucking Association, the California Trucking Association, CRST Expedited, Inc., and U.S. Express had supported Walmart's petition, filed in January, through an amicus brief filed on January 31st. The 4 supporters of Walmart's petition have a strong interest in the outcome of the case, which has major implications for the treatment of time that drivers spend off-duty in a truck sleeper berth under the California wage law, according to the brief. Okay, if you work for any of these companies, or if the company you work for is affiliated with any of these companies, it may be time to start thinking about working somewhere else. These are bad, bad people. Imagine, do any of them work for free any amount of time every day? When any of them are on off-duty time, are they controlled by their company? But yet they're going to go before a court, and they're trying to go before a chief judge and 10 additional judges to advocate that drivers don't get paid for the time they're working. I could spend an hour talking about what a horrible, horrible group of people this is. says Walmart's attorneys had argued that the jury in the lower court was instructed to follow narrow language in the retailer's pay manual to determine if it was exercising control over the drivers, even during non-driving times. The petition came 2 weeks after the court's 3-judge panel upheld the lower court's decision that found drivers involved in a class action suit were entitled to back wages under California law. I want to say one more thing about this. I hope these guys don't settle. I hope they stick to their guns and get every penny they can get for several reasons. For one, it will set a precedent, and maybe driver pay will change to where we will get paid for what we do. And secondly, it doesn't allow these weasels a way out. You know, if Walmart's able to settle out of this, and I guarantee you they're trying, then they can say, well, we didn't do nothing wrong. We just settled it. We just wanted to move forward. They need to be found wrong in a court of law, and changes need to be paid. I can't think of any other profession where you're asked to do work for free. I'm referring to pre-trips, post-trips, fueling, dropping and hooking, even simple maintenance that a lot of company drivers and definitely owner-operators do to their trucks for no pay whatsoever. Now, you could make an argument that owner-operators should not be paid because they're their own business. They're taking care of their own equipment. But should a company driver be changing out lights and wipers and things like that for free? I would argue no, that they should be paid for those things. And I don't know what the solution here. It may be an hourly wage for the trucking industry. It may be a weekly minimum wage amount that drivers should be paid, or a daily minimum wage amount to where every day a driver's out here, and I'm referring to company drivers right here, that they should make a minimum of so much per day. And but there's definitely change coming to the trucking industry. Several companies around Arkansas or in Tennessee are going through lawsuits right now for various things. And I'm watching those stories as well. As soon as there's something noteworthy, I'll bring you a video about those things as well. Let's see. The ATA's brief warned of far-ranging implications if a rehearing isn't granted, predicting it would usher in a massive new wave of minimum wage litigation, with lower courts struggling to deal with the implications of the ruling. So the ATA is basically saying, hey, if we don't fix this, all these crappy companies might have to start paying their drivers at least minimum wage. Now think about that for a second. First of all, nobody should be working for less than minimum wage. But then you're going to have these companies that are going to say, well, we can't afford the pay increase. If you're working for a company and you're not making at least minimum wage and they're telling you they can't afford to pay you more, then they've got a bad business model. They should be making enough money that they can at least afford to pay you minimum wage. And if they can't, you really need to find somewhere else to work. So that's that article. Like I said, I'm going to put it in the description. I'll be curious to see what you guys think about it. And we'll catch you on the next one. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.